Throws here back with another video, and today we're talking about Six Flags over Texas. As you know, last weekend the brand new attraction Speelunker Cave finally opened at Over Texas. This revamp of the original cave attraction at Over Texas was 100 times better than I expected. Its theming makes it better than any other dark ride in Six Flags history. Well, for now. And with the original storyline, this attraction does not feel like a Six Flags ride at all. Either way, it's super exciting to have a new attraction at Over Texas, and with Aquaman Power Wave opening in only a few months, we're about to have 2 new attractions. But while we're on the topic of new rides, we can't forget that we're also pretty close to August, which is the usual time to announce new attractions for Six Flags Park. And yes, Aquaman is opening this year, but it doesn't mean it's the new ride for this year. Aquaman was bought and paid for way back in 2020, and the only reason why it's new is because no one has been on the attraction since it's been under construction. And the same goes for Pirates because it's also been constructed a long time ago, but it wasn't until 2021 when they finally announced it and finally continued progress even faster. So it's very possible for Over Texas to get a new attraction next year. But even if we don't, in today's video I'll be listing every possible new attraction that can be coming to Over Texas in the near future. Whether it's 5 years from now, next year, or even 10 years from now. From roller coaster to flat ride to dark ride. But before I get into the prediction, I would like to say, if you like my content and videos, be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell to know when new videos come out on my channel. And if you're new here, welcome to the channel for all those thrill seekers. JV Thrills is a different coaster channel, as it explores all types of thrills, no matter if it's roller coaster or flat ride, and no matter its location. Whether it's in my home state of Texas, or all the way in Tennessee, if it's a thrill, it's on this channel. So if you're interested, stick around, especially with the all-new summer content planned for these following months. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into today's video. So if you haven't noticed recently, at Over Texas, they've been on the rise. Ever since we got that little push from Ron McKenzie, the park's quality has drastically gone up. From no theming to lots of theming, and new attractions that are truly surprising for Six Flags. And I'm gonna be honest, a few years ago, I would never expect Over Texas to get anything good in the following years. Just the same clone attraction, and they'll never get the ride they need. But now, from the past 2 years, I genuinely think Over Texas has the possibility to be the next Fiesta Texas, or even the next Magic Mountain. As more and more people move to Texas, and Texas becomes a state almost as popular as California, Over Texas will have to step it up, especially now when Codaland, a small little new theme park in Austin, just got 2 major coasters, both a world's first, especially that tilt coaster. So yeah, Over Texas has competition now, and that's good because that means we'll be getting new attractions. But what will the next attractions for Over Texas be? So I've broken them down into categories. Of course, we got the new roller coasters, then the new flat rides, and then any extras, like possibilities for new shows, experiences, or more. Also, it's not based on a specific timeline, like I'm not predicting what's coming next year, but it's more just listing what I want to see and what could be coming, based on some clues in the park. Anyways, let's begin with the roller coasters. Starting off with the most realistic addition, we have the BNN Wing Coaster. And the reason why I say this is realistic is because we have lots of factors that could lead to a BNN Wing coming to Over Texas in the near future. With the most obvious being that Six Flags is now working with BNN again, as they just installed a dive coaster at Fiesta Texas. With BNN back in the picture again, we can now predict BNN coasters for Six Flags parks, and Over Texas getting a wing just makes sense. And here's why. This coaster was actually predicted back in 2012, when X-Flight was just being announced for Great America. Six Flags did plan to clone more wing coasters, but it did cost a lot. But now that Six Flags is back on track, a wing coaster is not out of their price range anymore. And honestly, it'd be a good investment considering the growing crowds in Texas and the competition between Codaland. They could easily make the coaster one of the best wing coasters in the entire world, with elements never before been seen, and market it as the world's tallest. As to where we have the space for this, I have the perfect location, the area where Texas Giant is. This was predicted way before by many coaster enthusiasts when they thought a wing coaster would come to Over Texas. The station would be right next to Titan, and its layout would go over the bridge and lake, right up against Texas Giant and the Chaparral Antique cars. This will be a really great location because one, it's the first thing you see when walking into the Texas Giant area, it would definitely add to the skyline, and it finally adds another attraction next to the Titan area. And as for its theme, it would obviously be Western, maybe the coaster's name being Outlaw or something like that. Overall, it'll be great to see, and if they truly make this one of the best wing coasters in the world, it can definitely help Over Texas get to a higher level, and finally get eligible to compete with Codaland, which can also lead to Over Texas being one of the better theme parks in the Six Flags chain. But anyways, on to the next coaster, the BNN Giga. Yes, I know this is very outlandish, and usually I never make predictions like this, but it's very likely, and here's why. I'll try to keep it short, and if you want to see the full explanation why Over Texas can get a BNN Giga, you should click the video in the top right. But anyways, this prediction mostly stems from what's going on with Knott's Berry Farm right now. Knott's Berry Farm, a really small theme park, is trying to get a Giga, if you don't already know. Now obviously, now it's probably going to be a mini hyper, but they truly had plans to install a Giga to the park. And it honestly would have worked if it weren't for noise complaints and other factors that prevent the coaster from being in that location. But see, at Texas, especially in Over Texas, we don't have any of these issues. No height requirements, no noise complaints because Over Texas is in a prime retail location, and we actually have the space. We won't even have to cram it in. This Giga can literally go in the park without replacing anything. Sure, it'd be really custom, but yeah, a Giga is very likely. And sure, some may say, oh, we don't need a Giga because we have Titan, but Titan is just a hyper, and honestly is a little bit bland. A Giga would bring the airtime for sure, and it's the standard attraction that Over Texas needs. And I think Six Flags knows this. In fact, they've probably been discussing what park to give the Giga to, and Over Texas is the prime park to get this Giga. It's the first Six Flags park, they have the space, and Texas needs a standout coaster. So yeah, a B&M Giga is very likely, and I would honestly not be surprised if we see the Giga in the next 4 years, maybe even sooner. And as for its location, it can go anywhere. It can overlap the park and go on top of pathways inside the park. It can replace Music Mill Amphitheater. It can go besides Titan. It can go in the Lake by JoJo Scream. Like I said, anywhere. And as for its name, I really wish they could name this coaster Big Bend, because it'd be a really great reference to the original Big Bend coaster, and a great way to pay homage to Texas history, especially if this coaster is in Texas. But anyways, on to the next coaster prediction, which is the BNN Dive. And yes, I know Fiesta Texas has one, and honestly I don't want this for Over Texas, but knowing Six Flags, they might want to clone this coaster, and they'll probably give it to Over Texas with maybe a little bit of a longer layout, and of course it being a little bit taller. But again, I do not want this, and I really hope it doesn't happen, because it's not the coaster that Over Texas needs. If it did happen though, its location will most likely be at Music Mill Amphitheater, mostly because Cliffhanger at Fiesta Texas replaced Sundance Theater, and it's pretty similar. Plus, it makes sense to have the dive coaster dive pretty close to the freeway, because it's the first thing you see when you come in, even though I would rather much see a B&M Giga. Anyways, on to the final coaster prediction. And if you guessed that it would be the SNS Axis coaster, then
you are right.
But yeah, this is probably the most predicted coaster for every single theme park. As soon as every enthusiast saw that SNS Axis coaster, they immediately thought Six Flags would get it first. And honestly, I believe them. But as to which theme park should get it first, I think it should be Over Texas. And that's because Over Texas has a history of introducing new attractions. They got the first ever RMC Hybrid, the first ever Mine Train coaster, and so much more. So Over Texas, the first Six Flags park getting an SNS Axis makes total and complete sense. As to where it can go, honestly I think this is the case where they're going to replace a ride. And the ride they're going to replace is La Vibora. I've said it for a long time, but La Vibora will be next to be leaving. The coaster just majorly rough and hurts all over. And sure, the ride always has a long line, but that's because the capacity is so poor. It only fits 3 riders per car, maybe more if they sit on each other's lap, but still the max is 6. Either way, capacity is really bad. And usually, from Six Flags history, you can tell that rides with really bad capacity get chopped up, just like Big Bend. So it's only a matter of time before La Vibora leaves. And in its place, we get the SNS Axis. It'd be really great in that area because it'll be the first thing you see in the parking lot. But also there's a lot of room there for a great layout, and it is considered a family coaster, so it can replace La Vibora being a family coaster, even though it's slightly a little bit more extreme. But anyways, on to the flat rides. For flat rides, I broke it down to the 3 most possible additions. And yes, they are hard to predict because flat rides change every year and you never know what's the trend for Six Flags that year, but this is based off of right now. So let's start with the most possible one, a Zamperla Super Air Race. I said it once, but I'll say it again, this ride will get cloned. We haven't seen it get cloned mainly due to the factors like COVID and new management, but if Six Flags had to pick one flat ride to clone, it has to be this one. It's a lot of fun and it's perfect for every Six Flags park. And if they add top-notch theming to it like Daredevil Dive flying machines, this ride will be amazing. As to where it can go in over Texas, there's 2 prime locations, maybe even 3. The first obvious choices is next to Titan, and possibly replacing Harley Quinn's Insanity, considering that it should be leaving soon. The other location that literally no one talks about in the park is the France area. There actually is a lot of room to install at least one flat ride there. And with the theming enhancements in the area, I think they're due for a new attraction in there. And for some reason, planes and the France theme just make total sense. And honestly, I would love to see it in that area. And I hope to get to use the France area for something new soon. Next we have the Funtime Vomitron, which is this new set of flat rides that Six Flags has recently bought for Great Escape and St. Louis. Both of these flat rides have recently opened to the parks, and the reviews are really great. Apparently it's super extreme and a lot of fun with lots of airtime, but it's not sickening either. And sure, capacity can be a problem, but there's definitely a way to fit more riders for sure, if they get bigger gondolas. But anyways, this flat ride looks like a lot of fun, and for Over Texas to get this, it'd be great. Like I said, capacity can be an issue, but if they invest in bigger gondolas, or maybe even have a custom Vomitron that has 4 arms instead of 2, that'd be really cool. And as for its location, it can either replace Dive Bomber Alley, which is the upcharged sky coaster attraction in Over Texas. And honestly, while I love Dive Bomber Alley, I hate that it's an upcharge, and it looks like Six Flags is getting rid of the upcharge attraction soon. But if not that location, then maybe replacing Harley Quinn's Insanity, which again just makes sense, or again by Titan. But yeah, it looks like a lot of fun and be great to have that Over Texas. And finally, the last new flat ride that could be coming to Over Texas is the return of Crazy Legs. Yes, I know this sounds very far-fetched, but it's very possible. And for those of you who don't know, Crazy Legs is this defunct attraction that used to exist at Over Texas. In 2016, it got rethemed to Harley Quinn's Insanity when the new Riddler Revenge and Calvin Whip opened up. But then in 2018, when the new Harley Quinn's Insanity opened up, for some reason, instead of retheming it, they actually removed the attraction and replaced it with the chicken restaurant, which still triggers me to this day. But luckily, the attraction isn't destroyed. Instead, it was just dismantled and put into storage by Titan. And you actually can still see it there today. And with all the pieces there, they can in fact return the attraction. And honestly, it makes total sense. It's a cheap way to add a new attraction, and we can see the beloved Crazy Legs return. As to where it can go, it'll probably go in the space where Harley Quinn's Insanity is now, considering it's leaving, or it can go virtually anywhere. So yeah, it's a probability. And now for the extra things I think will happen over Texas in the near future. First off, we got lots of theming enhancements. I think Six Flags will start to care more about Over Texas, considering that it was the first Six Flags park, and help it to become more popular and a major Six Flags park like Magic Mountain or Fiesta Texas. Next, we'll start to see way bigger additions for Over Texas, because of course Texas is growing and we need those bigger coasters and attractions for more people. Over time, we could see Six Flags Over Texas turn into a resort almost. Like instead of it being a 1-day theme park trip, it'll have to be a 3-day because how many attractions they have or experiences. So we can see brand new shows or etc. Maybe even the hotel across from Six Flags becomes the Six Flags branded hotel that they've been planning for a long time, but it never came into fruition. We might also see a giant expansion to Over Texas, whether in Museum Amphitheater area, the Titan area, or even towards the front of the park where they used to have the membership services area, because now it's gone, and maybe they can expand into the Judge Ice Cream area. We might also see some ride relocations like Rodeo, which could be transferred to the Titan area, and Daffy Duck Bucket Blasters, which was promised to be moved to somewhere else, and maybe it can go in the France area. But in result, these are all predictions, and not everything is confirmed, though it'd be really nice to see it happen in real life. In result, those are all my predictions for what could be next for Over Texas, in terms of attractions and any other additions. So what do you think? Will Over Texas slowly get better, even to the point where they're Magic Mountain level, or will they go downhill from here? Comment down below, and what would you like to see the most? Anyways, thank you for watching. This is JB Thrills, signing out.